To begin our color wheel eyes, what you're going to do first is take a smaller piece of paper. In this paper, we're going to trace a circle to be the colorful iris of our eye. So placing my tracer on the paper, and I use my pencil and I go all the way around the container to make the shape of my iris. Next, what we're gonna need to do is split this up into 6 different colors. The colors we're gonna make our rainbows are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. So to split this up, what we're gonna do is take our ruler and you're gonna draw an X through your circle. So one line goes that way, one line goes this way. You do not need to worry about the sections being perfectly even. Just do your best. So I drew an X through it, and then I'm going to draw a line that goes between it. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different sections. Next up, you're going to take a smaller circle and go in the center of where your lines are and draw that smaller circle. This is going to be where your pupil is, the black part of your eye. So what I'm going to do next up, use my Sharpie, and I am going to trace the outline of the eye. So going around in the circle. Tracing the pupil. And then you can make the choice of whether you want to make lines where your different colors will be or not. So you can either do lines that will separate your colors, or you can leave it like this. I'm going to leave mine like this for now. What I am going to do is add some highlights to my pupil. To do that, I'm going to do a big circle and a small circle. And I know that those 2 circles, I'm going to leave them white. Then I'm going to color in the rest of my pupil pure black. So I'll put this on fast mode while I do that. You want to make sure you have a really nice fresh Sharpie for this part. Okay, then what we're going to do next is use our watercolor paints to color in the different sections of your eye. So I have my watercolors. I have a water cup, a paintbrush. You'll also probably want to have a paper towel in case you make a mistake and need to wipe up some of your watercolor. So wetting my brush, putting it first in the red for my first section will be red. Remember that the more water you use in watercolor, the lighter your color is going to be. The less water you use, the darker. Also, if you're looking at this red and you decide, I want my red to be darker, you could do your first layer of red, let it dry, and then go back and do a second layer of red on top of it to make that red darker. So going in rainbow order here, I am just coloring in every section. We are going to be cutting these eyes out, so if you go out of the lines, that's okay. I will put this on fast mode and color in the rest of my sections. Okay, now that this has been painted, I'm going to set it aside to dry. And I'm going to get a new piece of paper. And I'm going to get started on drawing my eye. So this is the paper that you will eventually be cutting out your iris and pupil and putting it onto. So this is going to be the whole sheet of paper to draw your eye. So I'm going to start with drawing an eye shape. Yes, it'll be difficult to start to draw your eye shape, but make sure that you start with drawing lightly so you can erase if you need to. If you need to start over, you can always flip it to the back. So to draw the shape of my eye, I'm drawing a football shape or a lemon shape. So starting with a line that starts down towards the center, curves upwards, and then back down. Then drawing the corner of the eye. That's where your tear duct is. It's kind of like a C shape, drawing that tear duct. And then a line. It's a lot less curvy than this top line. It's still curved, but it's much more straight than that top line was. Now I can look and see how it is this eye. Looks like it should fit in there just fine. So now what I can do, I'm going to go in and just kind of use my pencil to start shading this line darker. I turn my pencil to the side and I shade that using the side of my pencil to create a bolder line. Remember, all eye shapes are different, so yours should not look exactly like mine or exactly like anyone's at your tables. All of our drawings are going to be unique. You can use your pencil to your finger to smooth out those shaded lines too if you want. Okay. So next steps are going to be to do the creases in our eye to show like eyelids. We're also going to be drawing the tear duct. So let's start with the tear duct. That's going to be the corner of your eye. This is that pink part of your eye that produces tears or hydration for your eye. So I'm drawing a slightly curved line to block that off. Next, at the top of the eye, I'm going to draw where our eyelid is. So watch the shape I'm doing. I'm kind of mimicking the shape of the eye to show where that lid would be. And remember, start with drawing lightly with your pencil in case you need to go back and erase. You can use your finger to smooth out any of those lines to give it more of a blended look, or you could leave your edges a little harder. That's up to you and how you want your art to look. Next, I'm going to show where the bottom crease is under our eye. If you look at your own eye or a table partner's eye, you'll probably be able to see a small lower lid. So drawing that line. Okay, so now that we have the general shape of the eye, we're going to move on to adding more shading. So we're gonna go in, I'm gonna make these lines a little bit darker, and then we start to add shading around the eye to make this look more realistic. When we're shading, you're using the side of the pencil, not the tip. If we did the tip, you would get really scribbly lines. We want to have soft lines for our shading to make it look more realistic and like human skin. So the closer I am to the crease of the eye, it's going to be darker. Towards the center, it's going to get lighter. And you can always change the direction of your pencil. This is something called cross-hatching. When we do a cross-hatching technique with shading, it's when you make lines going in one direction and then crossing over that line in an opposite direction. So that is one way to shade. So flipping this over, adding shading in all areas. I'm going to put this on fast mode so you can see how I shade my eye. As for shading, I'm going to go in and do more shading in the corners of the paper. These are shadows where we would see kind of creases in your face from your nose and like the bridge of your nose. So we can go in and do shadings on this corner of your eye to show, you know, where your nose is starting. Also on this side, doing a little shading too to show the shape of our face, where our cheekbone would be. If you use your fingers and feel your face kind of under your eye in this area, you can feel where your cheekbone would be. And remember, you want to keep these lines of your lids that you did in the first place visible. So that might mean having to go in and make them a little bit darker, just so you can see where those original lid lines were. If you end up smudging your paper too much, you can always go back in with an eraser and get rid of those smudges and add some highlights. Adding a highlight in the tear duct so that you can see the moisture of where that tear duct would be. Okay, so as we're going, we also want to make sure that we do some shading inside of the eye, because our eye is a spherical shape. You would want to have a little bit of shading at the top and at the bottom to show that your eye is 3D. It's not flat. Our eyes are not flat. They are actually sphere shapes inside of our heads. So you're going to want to do some shading around the edges of your eye. Make sure it stays light. You don't want your eye shading to be as dark as the shading around your eye, because we want to still have it look convincing that your eye is white. So adding some subtle shading to create that 3D look of your eye, going in, using my finger for blending. You want to make sure your finger is dry when you do blending. You do not want a wet finger, because that is going to just make a big mess of your pencil and your paper. Sometimes I don't like my art to be too blended. I like to sometimes leave a little bit of pencil line in there to show texture and extra shading. Okay, so our next step is going to be to add eyelashes. So for our eyelashes, we'll kind of, since this is so zoomed in, we'll do each eyelash one by one. So I'm gonna go in and show you what that's gonna start to look like. So I'm gonna start on the bottom lashes. Our bottom lashes are always less long than our top lashes. And the closer that your eyelashes are to your tear duct, they're also shorter. They're gonna be longer towards the end edge and the middle. So I can throw in a couple over here, and then I'll meet in the middle. And you can add your lashes however you want to, whatever works best for you. I'm gonna do some lashes that are thicker like this one, and some that are also thinner. I'm gonna kind of jump around. Some lashes might be crossing over one another. That would be realistic. If you look really closely at your eye or your table partner's eye, you might see that they have some lashes that are tangled or overlapping, maybe some that are kind of like pointing in funny directions. So if you have a mirror, you could look in the mirror at your own eye, or otherwise take a look at your table partner's eye as you're adding in these lashes. You don't need to have a lash on every single little section. That would not look realistic. So now that I have some lashes added in on the bottom, I'm gonna go in and darken these up. Okay, now we're gonna start with our top lashes. Your top lashes of your eye, again, you can look at your eye or a partner's eye. Your top lashes are going to be longer, thicker, and darker. And notice how when I am doing my eyelashes, I'm drawing in the direction and shape that the eyelash would go. I'm not drawing like up and down like this. No. I'm doing my marks in the direction that the eyelash is naturally going. So your eyelash is gonna be thicker towards the bottom, and then as it gets out, thinner. Your eyelashes might also be going off the page depending on how you drew your eye in the first place. So some are gonna be on the page, but some might go off. Like I have quite a bit of room above my eye, but for some people and for some of our examples, a lot of the eyelashes are gonna be going off of the page. Notice as I'm doing my eyelashes over towards the center and tear duct, my eyelashes are not all going straight out like the ones on the edge. They are going upwards. The closer you get to the tear duct, the shorter and finer those lashes are going to be. Then as we get closer to the edge in the middle, they're going to get thicker and longer. You can always go back to and make these darker or longer as you go. Remember, just like on the bottom, some of our eyelashes might point in funny directions. Some might cross over the other. I'm gonna put this on fast mode and finish doing those lashes. All right, and now it's time to glue on our eyes. So my iris and pupil actually fits really well inside of my eye. If your iris needs to be trimmed down a little bit, you can cut it out, size it up with your pencil, and you can make a line of an area you might have to trim down to make sure that this fits, because you don't, if like my iris was that big and it was touching the bottom, I would want to make sure that I drew a line there so I could trim off that edge of my iris. So what you would do if I wanted to trim this part off, I would make a line. My painting is still a little wet, so it's hard to see. I'd make that line and just give it a little trim to make sure that it fits inside of my eye, like that. And notice also that when I cut this out, I cut out that black Sharpie edge as well. So now flipping it over, I'm gonna add my glue. I'm making sure that I have glue all the way to the edge because I don't want my eye to be sticking up. I want it to be glued completely down so it blends right in with the rest of my paper. Lining it up exactly where I want it. and then pressing down with my hand, holding it so it glues down. If you have some areas you need to touch up with your pencil, you can absolutely do that. I'm going to do that right now. All right, so that looks awesome. All right, then your very final step, if you have time, it's okay if you don't have time for this, is to take some thick white paint and add highlights to your eyes. I'm adding a little bit of highlight to my tear duct to show where the moisture is in my eye. And then I'm adding a highlight to my eye itself. And if you don't like how this looks either, maybe you don't like how this highlight looks, you do not have to add it. This is just an option. So this highlight is starting in the white of my eye and going in to my iris. If you did not add a highlight to your pupil like I did, you want to make sure that you add a highlight to your pupil as well to show where the light would be reflecting. So highlight on this side. I'll do one on this side as well. Notice how those two highlights are in line with each other. A little one on the edge. Okay. And remember, if you don't want to do the highlights, you don't have to. It's just an option that I am showing you.